Welcome to another episode of the Gay Barchives Show, where we explore gay history one bar at a time. I'm your host, Art Smith, and today we'll be exploring the world of gay businesses run by David Fischer of St. Pete, Florida. Welcome to the show, David.
Thanks for having me.
You're quite welcome. How could I not? You have an amazing combination of businesses in St. Pete, all of which are either focused on or at the very least very welcoming to the LGBTQ community.
Thank you.
So they're not like thrown together hole in the wall kind of places. They're all well thought out places. So the first one I want to talk about is one that kind of blew me away. I had a friend in Atlanta who is very much an eclectic, kind of artsy, home decor kind of guy. And for his desk in his office, he had this gigantic aluminum airplane wing that was kind of bent to make a desk. And I noticed that exact same item in the window of ZaZoo'd. So that kind of set the tone for that store. So tell me a little bit about ZaZoo'd. How did you get involved in doing this really kind of fun, eclectic gift store?
Sure. So I, for 25 years, worked for Darden Restaurants as their vice president of training, and retired when I was 46. And I was schooled in design, more from the architectural versus the interior side of design, and knew I always wanted to do something eventually in that field. And so when I knew I was going to retire from Darden, I opened a store. I had a house in Orlando, and then I had a beach house down on Sunset Beach. And I knew I wanted to open a store that kind of reflected what I always had kind of wanted to do and my passion in life was, which was kind of design from both, aesthetically from a store perspective and interior design as well. And having worked in and with so many restaurant brands in the past, tapped into that as well from a design perspective. And so have worked on many designs throughout Tampa Bay and the rest of the US on both commercial and residential design services. So we do both out of this store. It's an eclectic kind of mix of antiques as well as gifts and home decor. And then the design side of it, our design center is where I'm sitting now, and that's in the back of the store where we work on interior design for both commercial properties and residential properties.
Now, throughout the course of this video, I will be showing some pictures of the store and some of the merchandise you carry there, as well as the clubs we're going to talk about shortly. But what makes ZaZoo'd stand out from the other home decor and gift stores that are scattered all around the Tampa Bay area?
Well, we hear mostly that it's we display it in a unique and different kind of way than most people do, and we help people envision how they could bring together a mix of both old and new within their homes and lives. And so a lot of people have antiques that they've grown up with over time or that have been passed down to them, but yet they want a new, fresh feel to their home. And so we try to bring those two elements together in a unique and interesting way that helps people envision how they use it in their home.
Yeah, when I was in your store, one word that came to mind as I was kind of glancing around was curated. It's kind of like you very intentionally chosen every single item that is in that store. It's not just, oh, let's go to the merchandise mart and buy, 50 grand worth of stuff to throw on a shelf. It's like every single thing in there has a purpose and somehow caught your eye and you said, I need this in the store. Is that really the case? Or
Well, we're glad you feel that way. It doesn't always work out that way, especially today with today's supply chain issues. So I can go to market and or do estate sales and things like that to do some shopping, and you get a vision in your head of what it's going to turn out like. And sometimes the stuff or product doesn't show up that makes half the story not come together. So sometimes we have to wait and we keep it in the back room until we get the rest of the product in that kind of tells the story. But yeah, I definitely buy with an idea of how it's going to come together in the end. But I never really know execution wise how it'll work out until I actually start moving stuff around. And once you move one thing around in here, you pretty much are going to move everything around, because it just kind of is a domino effect of how things move around and work out within the store. It's a tight space and we have a lot in here, so you move one thing and everything basically has to move and change. So, which is exciting because it makes people see different things when you move things around.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes just moving it a few feet or shifting the position in the store makes it, suddenly the next person walks in and goes, "Oh my God, I have to have that." And it's
Yeah.
been there for like a year, but they never noticed. So,
Yeah.
how long has ZaZoo'd been in operation?
We are now in our 9th year. So I started 2 years before I retired. And we're in our 9th year here. We just moved locations, actually. We were at 531 Central. We're now at 631 Central. So we just moved a block up on the same side of the street. And so we're in our 9th year, and we love what we do for the city and what we can do for the Tampa Bay area. And we love being a part of a small business here. It's a very welcoming city for small businesses. And kind of that's one of the biggest reasons why I've decided to continue business endeavors here and open more businesses, although not so retired anymore now after 5 businesses opening up. It's a little busy around here.
Well, for people who are unaware, where David's businesses are located, they're all basically on Central Avenue. Central Avenue is the dividing street between North and South St. Pete. So it's like the main thoroughfare, and it's always had kind of a special charm to it. Like one of the neighborhoods that's very well known along Central Avenue is what they call the Grand Central District, which is kind of the home and the focal point for decades of the gay pride festivals until they moved the parade downtown. And then the other part, I guess, is what do you refer to the other? Is the other one the Edge District where ZaZoo'd is, or
no? The other one's called the Central Arts District. They're not quite as established from an area or boundary perspective like the Grand Central and the Edge District are. So, but this area of town is really called the Central Arts District.
And they're basically within what, a mile or two of each other?
Yeah,
they're pretty close.
Yeah.
Now, just up the street, at some point, David decided that being semi-retired and only having one business to run was not quite enough to keep him going. So he dipped his toe in the water of I don't even know how to put it, of the entertainment industry, and he got into a very large project.
Yeah, that's become bigger and bigger as we know it today. But it's really started out with the Saint. That was the first kind of concept creation in that building that we're now in, and now have 5 or 4 of the 5 businesses that we own today. So the Saint was really the first kind of delve outside of ZaZoo'd that we started.
Now let's talk a little bit about the Saint. I have not been there, but I have seen the pictures online. We will be showing them throughout this segment. The Saint has a very cool vibe to it from what I can see. What was the inspiration for the Saint? Where did that come from?
So I knew I wanted to, I have no idea why, but I've always wanted to own a bar. And so I work with a local entrepreneur here in town that owns quite a few hotels and businesses. I designed 2 of his hotels, the Avalon and the Hollander, as my design business. And I had worked with him on many other projects, not so visible as those 2. that he has in town. So he wanted to look at buying what was a historic building in town called the Mari Jean. There were some developers from Miami that had looked at the building and opened it as a hotel, but they got, I think, too deep into it, and probably it cost way more money than they thought it would to remodel it. The building was in pretty bad condition. So Mike took me down there, said, "What do you think? Can we do this?" And so I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, who's going to own all these businesses in here? I don't want to do it. I just want to own the building." And so I said, "Well, I've always wanted to open a bar." Little did I know that would lead to what we have there today. But so it started with the Saint. The Saint is, to get to your question, it's loosely based on the Catholic religion. I grew up Catholic, went to Catholic school. And it's all red inside. I knew I wanted a bar that was all red, and kind of the ideas just blossomed from there. My mind doesn't really stop thinking, and so I just get creative. That's my best creative moment, is when I sit and kind of relax and can digest what's happening. And so I thought I wanted to build a bar that would explore the differences between what religion told us to do in life and what we actually do in life. Because I think a lot of people get conflicted with that, and they don't know how to justify and or how to have both in their lives. And so the bar is simply meant to explore that. People take it in different ways when they get in the bar. I've always collected Catholic antiques and things, so there are actually real church lights in there. There are real Catholic and other religious antiques in there. They're all, true artifacts from the church. You enter through a confessional, and you have to know how to get in to the bar, because it's a true speakeasy. The door is not labeled. It's on the side of the building. You'll see some red lights, and once you get in, it's a whole world of what you wouldn't expect once you enter through the doors, kind of from the exterior looking till you get inside.
I think that the design perspective of that space speaks volumes to your talent and your vision, and also kind of reinforces the whole concept of your dream with ZaZoo'd, because it really is, you were really passionate about the way it looks, and it looks very authentic. I could imagine that space being featured in, a movie, maybe a remake of The Omen or something that has kind of some twisted religious connection to it.
Thank you.
And it definitely has that vibe to it. Now, if I walk in there, I too am a recovering Catholic. I was very much immersed in the Catholic religion prior to my high school years. And so looking at the pictures, I would expect it to smell like frankincense when I walked in the door.
It really is much different than what people think on the outside. So some people are like, is it a devil worshiping place? No. Is it a anti-church place? It's not. My parents are still very much in the Catholic religion, and so when I brought them there for the first time, I was curious to see what kind of my mom's reaction more than anybody's was to it. And she loves it. We have priests and nuns come in all the time that love it. It's not meant to offend anybody. It's just meant to simply have your mind be open and explore the differences that we actually do in life versus what we're told to do from a church perspective. And so the space has been used because it's all red. It's very hard to film in there because the red lights, everything's red. You'll see in the pictures that you share, but the walls are fur and sequin, and so it adds a bit of antique nostalgia along with, again, new, different, funky stuff. It's very Instagrammable. It's been used in 2 music videos and also a TV show. And so, people definitely want to film in there. We try to keep the mystery and mystique of what a speakeasy is intact when we do film in there, or people want to film in there. So we're pretty picky about what we let happen in there. But you know, it's a small space. It only holds 69 people. We only allow people to, we don't have people stacked at the bar. You have a seat. It's a true speakeasy where you sit down with your group of people, you enjoy the company that you're there with and others around you, but you're not walking around your typical bar where you go to the bar and order a drink. Everybody, you know, has a server that comes to them. Our mixologists are called mischief makers. They're, you know, behind the bar. They will craft your cocktails and lead you through an experience really from the minute you enter the door or walk up to the front door till you leave in the evenings. And so we wanted it to be an experience, you know, a night out where it was something different and unusual that St. Pete had never seen. And so that's how the Saint started. We opened it during the pandemic, which, you know, people think that that's a crazy idea, but the layout of the place and the fact that everybody was seated and had a table assigned to them and we chose where they went, it was really easy once we opened with social distancing guidelines and things of that sort to work and work within the original guidelines that we were given back during the height of COVID. So the space has been hugely successful, thank God, since it opened. And it, you know, on Friday and Saturday night, it's not unusual to have an hour or 2 hour wait to get in there. During the week, we have entertainment. We have, you know, Tarot Card Tuesday, which is, we'll have some type of tarot card reader or astrology sign interpreter. We have burlesque Wednesdays. So we have a burlesque troupe that works with us that does burlesque on Wednesday nights. And then we have a live singer on Thursdays. And then you can enjoy the speakeasy, you know, outside of kind of that entertainment realm. The other nights of the week, Sundays is service industry night. So we offer all service industry folks, first responders and any military folks half off their bill when they come in on Sunday nights.
Very cool. And for those people who have to wait an hour or 2 hours to get in on the weekend nights, conveniently for you and them,
yeah,
they can simply stroll a few feet around the corner and enjoy the patio and the outdoor space and indoor space at Cocktail.
Yeah. So about a year ago now, so the Saint will be 2 years old in September. In May, a year ago, we opened Cocktail, which is a gay, what was intended to be a bar, really more than a nightclub, but it became more a nightclub than a bar. Once we opened it, we found there was a huge need for dancing and things of that sort. And so it morphed quickly when we opened Cocktail. It was, again, very busy when we opened. We were still, you know, pretty deep into the pandemic when we did that. And it was hugely successful when we opened. It was, you know, we'd get people walk around the corner that were on the way at the Saint. Thankfully, now we finally gave in and we allow for half the dining room at the Saint to be booked for reservations in advance now. And so that's made the wait a little more bearable for some people, but those that don't make reservations, you know, there's still going to be on the weekends, a wait definitely to get in there, but they come around and then they have cocktails at Cocktail, and then we page them when their table's ready at the Saint and they go enjoy that. So they get to enjoy both venues, or like you said, sit out on the sidewalk and enjoy what right now is really hot weather and you know, a cocktail out on the sidewalk.
Now, I'm putting up images that include your logo, which is emblazoned across the front of your T-shirt there. But in the for the people who haven't really been paying attention, the bar Cocktail, the word cock is emphasized, and there is a very large cock on his shirt, a very large kind of mosaic rainbow-colored rooster. Which is the symbol of Cocktail. And Cocktail has some interesting features. Again, very kind of high style, intentionally designed when you go in there, you look at individual elements and you say, yeah, this didn't come from a restaurant supply company. This didn't come from the previous bar that was here. This was all put together with some definite plan in mind. And the first thing that comes to mind is the whole mirror ball display that's suspended from the ceiling near the DJ booth. What was the inspiration for that? Where did that come from?
So that was like a late ad, actually. So if you've been in my other businesses, which obviously you have, Art, I have a sixth sense of humor, and that sense of humor should come through in pretty much everything I do, whether it be a design project for somebody else or for myself and the businesses that I have. So if you go in any of the businesses, you will find humorous twists on kind of what the theme is for that business. Yeah, so cocktail, the name cock is definitely accentuated so that people hopefully understand that it is a gay bar, because there is still a need for safe spaces within the gay community for, you know, LGBTQ plus individuals to go and feel safe. And that's important to acknowledge it. But we did a little different when we designed cocktail, and I'll get to your original question, but I think it's part of kind of the design of the whole place. Most gay bars up to probably this point in time have been darker, secluded places, not open to the street. Very unusual to have such a large open window in the front. Again, there's a certain, amount, unfortunately, of population that is still homophobic and not comfortable with gay bars in general, or homosexuality in general, whatever you want to call it. And so it's been a little bit of, apprehensive for bar owners and anybody to open a space up to the street as much as we did that one. But we wanted a space where people could feel proud to go, but yeah, it was still a safe space for individuals. And so we try to create that balance within there. And so a lot of the that was originally office space and part of the lobby of the original hotel. And so what we did was we, created a much larger space. I wanted to pick up on, I wanted an ode to the history. So you'll see the old ceilings were kept intact with some of the old plaster moldings, but yet some of the new elements were injected. I wanted it to feel industrial. I wanted, when I was, back when Georgie's was open, I loved how Georgie's had a space for people to talk and converse with their friends, but yet if you wanted to go dance, you could go to the other side and go dance. And so obviously not as big a footprint as Georgie's, but wanted to somehow create a space where you could come close to doing that. So part of the bar was set up as a loungier area with sofas and things of that sort. We've since changed that as the need has shown that we needed to be more of a nightclub than just a bar. And so, the other side was really meant more for, if you wanted to dance, it was there. So we put in a huge disco ball. To me, disco balls are iconic in all parts of the world, as well as in all parts of our culture. And so, I wanted a big disco ball to center the room. Then, we started to get inspired by different things. And so we just started brainstorming. We had seen an exposition out in Vegas that used glow in the dark slinkies. So we used those. And then my sixth sense of humor came to life. And I said, what if we had neon penises hanging from the ceiling within the slinkies, so that you may not notice them at first glance, but as you look up at the disco ball, you see them. And so that's how that idea became part of the design. It was really not until we were close to opening that we thought up and kind of came up with that idea. There were always going to be disco balls there, but it definitely became bigger than what we thought it would be. And now it's one of the most photographed pieces in the bar.
I'm quite sure. And the lock screen on my phone is actually a brief video clip of your disco balls in motion with a purple light on them. So I
Cool.
see them every time I open my phone. But I love disco balls too. I've got a few in my living room with the spotlights on them just because, and I leave them running 24/7 just to
Nice.
annoy my roommate because he thinks, why do you have disco ball going at 4 a.m. on a Tuesday?
Yeah,
Because,
I can.
but speaking of the neon penis concept there, I noticed that also you had some of those being used for the draft beer handles as well. So
Yeah, so as we get as we come up with ideas, and it's really a concerted effort of friends, family that come up with these ideas and brainstorming sessions, where I say, hey, what do you think of this? And then they feed into it or say no way or say yes. And so they just kind of stuck. The disco ball stuck, the penises were a big hit. I'm amazed at how many straight people come into the bar, and 99% of them are respectful of the space and what it is. And I'm also amazed that we actually sell our t-shirt to as many straight men as we do gay men, because they just love the design of it. And I often sit there and think, do they know what this means, and do they understand the meaning of what this is about? And but they love it. They let any t-shirt we design, they buy and they love. And it's become a bit of humor. So we thought these penises have to make an appearance somewhere else. So when we were designing the WETspot, which is the pool bar and soon to open pool in the back, we decided to use the penises back there. And just a little bit of secret kind of on the inside is they'll make an appearance in the hotel as well.
all right then. That'll be an interesting coat hook
Yeah,
or
something.
faucet or something. We'll be curious to see what that actually is. Um, so the bar itself is really a fun place. I've been there earlier in the day. I've been there at night. I've been there on weekdays and weekends. It always seems to have a decent crowd. Everybody always seems to be having a good time. Um, you do not limit yourself to the basic, rum and coke cocktail. You have some talented bartenders that are actually a little creative and can make something a little bit more interesting than a generic beverage. Um, and the
Yeah,
whole vibe is really cool. It's just
I
I
think a
said this
little
to another
different
guy I was
again.
interviewing last week who has a few bars in Fort Lauderdale and Wilton Manors, and he is not on the beach either. Um, a lot of people think immediately when they hear Fort Lauderdale or they hear St. Pete, oh, you're right on the beach. No.
Yeah.
But your bar has kind of a beachy feel. It's very open and airy, and with the little pool outside and the hotel upstairs, and it has kind of that beachy, resorty, vacationy feel to that whole complex, which is really kind of cool.
Yeah, so kind of stepping back to the drink, what you notice about the drink. So most gay bars in general don't have specialty cocktails, a drink list. I wanted again to be different and something new. A lot of people have said gay bars are going by the wayside. They're not gonna succeed anymore after Scruff, Grinder, all of that came out. That's how people meet nowadays. It's been extremely successful, or we wouldn't be opening the WETspot and doing that as well. And now the hotel, it's been very well received. Um, I definitely wanted, again, that's part of the design process, was to keep the space open and airy and make it feel not so secluded of a bar, not to, something that people could, again, be proud of in a space that they could call their own. So we wanted it to be unique and different. At that same time, we knew there was a security risk with doing so. Unfortunately, you think about unfortunate incidents like, it seems like weekly there are mass shootings in the US. And, too close to home was Pulse when I lived in Orlando. That unfortunate incident happened at that nightclub. And I said to myself, if I'm going to own a bar or a nightclub, I will never call somebody's parents and tell them that unfortunately their child is no longer living because they were in my bar and somebody came in and did something horrific to them. And so I take security extremely personally, and we have a high level of security. Some think it's a bit obnoxious. I would tell you, oftentimes I don't think it's enough, because things still can happen, and unfortunately. But as I looked at opening the space up and it being so open to the street and so airy and different than most bars have been in the past, again, I wanted security to be top priority. I wanted people to feel safe there. And so some people get mad at us about it. Some people don't come in because of it, but we have probably one of the highest tech security pieces I know in St. Pete, involved in making sure that people are safe in there. That it's being used in a lot of big cities. Some people challenge, is it legal? It is 100% legal, or we wouldn't have it. But we scan everybody's ID that comes in there so that we can tell if it's fake, if they are of legal drinking age, if it is valid, and we won't let you in if it's not. And that frustrates people. But hopefully for our regular guests and the guests that decide to come in and join us, they understand that there also is a security risk in the world today in general, but even a bigger risk for people of the LGBTQ community to enter such a space, and I don't take it lightly. So that's why it's in place, and kind of how the design has to work well with the systems that we put in place. Because if we're going to have it be so open, it's important that we are also vigilant about what could happen in the space.
Now, over the years, St. Pete has been known for having gay resort accommodations going way back. I mean, there used to be a place called the Wedgwood that was downtown. Years later, there was the Suncoast down on 34th Street. More recently, there was the Flamingo that was also on 34th Street. And now, right in the district, right on Central Avenue, right above Cocktail, you're opening a hotel called the Mare Jean. That's a historic hotel. It's been there for quite a while. The building's been around for a long time. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the backstory of the Mare Jean?
Sure. So actually, you mentioned some of those resorts. I went to the Suncoast. I went to the Flamingo, obviously more recent. Again, we're trying to do the same thing we did with Cocktail and bring people a new offering that isn't that they can be proud of. So it's going to be more upscale than those past resorts you've mentioned. Not that there was anything wrong with them. We're just trying to be different and unique. And so we're taking a hotel from 1926 that was big in its heyday. Obviously didn't have air conditioning, was only open during our nicer months where it wasn't so obviously hot like it is today. Out to the side of the building, the caretaker's house was sitting on what is now going to be the WETspot, which it will be, again, the pool bar and pool that sit out to the side. But there were gardens, beautiful gardens, when it opened in a caretaker's house. And this all kind of is weird to me, and also kind of really cool is the fact that that house, later I found, after I got involved in putting a gay bar in here and then deciding to make it a gay resort, was moved when they were about to demolish it, and the city moved it, and it became the LGBTQ Welcome Center. So the fact that we are now making the whole hotel a gay hotel is very cool to me. It's its second life, really. But the hotel's been through kind of many reiterations, multiple owners. Originally, the Mare Jean was its original name, and so we decided to keep it. When we were looking at, we toyed around with changing the name, and we're like, let's be true to kind of what the building is. The hotel became somewhat of what some would call an insane asylum for a short time, and then it became an assisted living facility before the owners, before us, before they had bought it and started to make it back into a hotel. And so it's kind of lived through a bunch of different reiterations. And so, then it was called the Vinton for a while. That's when the Miami developers bought it. started putting some money into it, and I think again realized the space was way more in need of work than what they thought it was originally. And so we decided to keep the original name. We're going to open a 54 room property, upstairs hotel property, or remodeling obviously the rooms that are there. And so and it'll be in conjunction with the pool that's going to be out back, and the WETspot that's going to be out back. And so those will be amenities that the guests can enjoy there, is going to the pool that's in its side yard.
Now, obviously, I have not been inside the hotel, but I have seen some of the architectural drawings and the plans for what it's going to look like. And again, it is a very design intentional space. It's not a space that, you said, well, hey, let's go to the, Ramada Inn Clearance Center and buy 45 headboards and 45 wing chairs and 45 laminated desks and throw them in there. It kind of reminds me, and you had mentioned it's a much smaller space than either Suncoast or Flamingo were, which both had over 100 rooms. But it kind of gives me the vibe of like an Ian Schrager boutique hotel. It's not, it's a little fancy, but not intimidatingly fancy. It's got a nice sense of style to it, and I can't emphasize this enough. This property that has all these different businesses in it, each of which has an intentional design concept, an intentional theme, yet they do not look like they belong together. It does not look like the Saint does not look like it's part of the Cocktail.
Yeah.
And the hotel does not look like it's part of the Saint. They all have their own individual personality and style.
Yeah, and so that's probably some of what I brought from Darden is, Darden has 8 brands: Capital Grille, Olive Garden, Seasons 52, Eddie V's. So I would say that's probably one of the biggest things. Is we were very conscious when we designed things for the restaurants to make them unique to that brand and be very true to the brand. And so, for example, we wouldn't use the same salt and pepper shaker from one to the other just to do it and make things and buying easier and make, buying power bigger. We were more intentional with brand decisions that went back to the brand filters. So how was the brand designed? What was it designed for? I've tried to do the same thing in those learnings from working for such a large corporation that had so many brands underneath it, is to make intentional decisions that stay true to the brand. So figure out the brand first, and then say, how can we bring odes to the other so where they're connected? So in other words, you mentioned earlier the taps outside at the WETspot. They're the penises from inside that hang around the disco balls. So there's small pieces that you'll see at each property that are kind of an ode to, yes, we're connected, but we're our own brand in itself. And so you're right, the hotel feel, you're taking a hotel from a very time gone past, where today hotels are designed very differently. We are trying to take a room and from 1926, 28, that it has been designed for what it needed then, and bring it to the future, which is going to be, it's going to feel much more boutique-ish. It's going to, all the furniture we decided to make rather than buy, because the rooms are unique in features and things that happen within an old building like that. And so, and there wasn't a one size fits all, and we didn't want it to feel like a chained hotel. We wanted it to feel more unique and different. There will be surprises on each floor. There's 2 floors above the ground floor where all the other businesses are. 54 rooms. We wanted it to feel unique and different and be its own entity. And so you will find uniqueness about it. We're adding some cool elements, some of which we can talk about today, and others which are going to be surprises for, people that, rent rooms there and eventually stay at the hotel when we get it open. So
now if I were to stay at the hotel, which I'm sure you're going to comp me like a whole week for New Year's or something, because you're not going to be busy at New Year's. But if I were to stay at the hotel, do I have an option of ordering, say, dinner from the Saint and having it delivered at room service, or do I have to go down there? Are the businesses integrated in that way?
They are integrated. So we're adding a kitchen right now behind what is the back room at by ZaZoo'd at the hotel. So we have a store now in the what is the lobby of the hotel, and behind that we're adding a kitchen that can. Right now we use Lolita's wine market, and they make all of our foods for the Saint. We will eventually make all of the menus for. We will eventually serve food at Cocktail, the WETspot, and the hotel and the Saint. And so that kitchen is, under construction at this point, should open around the same time, if not before the hotel does. And so, yes, you're going to be able to utilize services from all of the above. When you come in as a day pass at the pool, so say you're not staying at the pool, you'll be able to come in with a day pass. You will get a complimentary cocktail, designed from Cocktail. You'll get a pool towel. When you stay at the hotel, the first thing you'll do when you check in is get a complimentary cocktail. So they're all kind of working together to provide the service, yet you're going to feel as though you're in your own experience when you're in each space.
Now, is this hotel designed to be an adult hotel? And by that, I mean, are you allowing children to stay there, or?
It's going to be an adult only gay hotel. And so, no, we're not. And yeah, I don't know. Sorry, I lost my train of thought.
Well, it's probably just as well, considering the nature of the businesses right there and the location. I don't know that it would be particularly enjoyable for children to stay there, because there's not much to amuse them around there. It's pretty much
and we're pretty adult oriented businesses.
Yeah,
so
that's what I'm saying.
It felt like the right thing to do in doing that.
So what kind of surprises do you have in store for us with the hotel that you can talk about right now?
Well, we're going to offer amenities like things like free bikes that you can bike around town with while you're staying in the hotel. We're going to, we partnered with Indigo Scooters, who is a new scooter company. Unlike any of the scooters that you see today, they're a sit-down scooter. Unlike the ones that you can rent with the city, these are going to be rented for half a day and a full day if you want to go to the beach, so you can actually take them all the way out to the beach. They're beach mobile, so you can drive them on the beach. So we're partnering with them to rent those out in the front of the hotel. So we're going to offer, obviously, that you can go to the WETspot. You'll have a reserved space out there when you have a room. And then we're going to have a continental breakfast for people who stay with us on the second floor lobby. So the actual hotel lobby, different than entering on the first floor, will be on the second floor when you get off the elevator. And so we will also have similar adult themed bits of humor throughout the hotel that are unique to it, but kind of, again, circle back to what we've done with the other businesses.
It sounds like a really exciting complex. Like I said, I've been there. I've been to that property. It's really cool. I was there most recently during St. Pete Pride, when, of course, the place was completely packed. And I did get to see what will be the WETspot. I was very tempted, because it was so hot and so packed out there, to dive into the pool. But I thought that's probably not a good idea when it's just an empty concrete shell. I might hurt myself. So I, abstained from that option. But it was nice to know that there is a pool there. As you mentioned, people can buy a day pass. I think you also have a long-term membership, don't you?
Yeah, we do. We have a month-to-month. It's not for everybody, but it's for people who are going to use the pool more than 5 times in a month. We would suggest getting it. And so the longer you're a member, so if you go for 3 months, month to month, as a member, you'll get other perks as well. So within your month, you get to bring 4 friends along with you. So you get friend passes. Again, each time you come in, you get a towel to use for the day. You get a complimentary cocktail. When you hit 3 months, you get 4 extra friend passes to bring for that month. When you hit 6 months, you get bottle service out by the pool. And when you hit 9 months, you get a VIP cabana rental for a day that you choose. So there are perks to definitely going month to month. We will only do 100 memberships and they're pre-selling right now. So we'll probably sell out, I would think, pretty close to before we open or just after we open the pool. And then the rest will be all hotel guests and then day passes as we have room to fit people in that can come for the day and get a day pass. They'll get a towel, a complimentary cocktail. We have lockers out there so that you can lock up your valuables if you're simply going in the pool and not laying out, things of that sort. We'll have showers. And so we had hoped to have the pool open a good couple months ago, but again, supply chain issues are killing us. We need more power in the building. Obviously, the building being as old as it is only has so much power. We are maxing that out with the sound system and light system that we have in Cocktail, which is pretty elaborate. And so we have had to add extra power. Well, the Duke Energy's had to order a transformer, a big, huge transformer to power the building. And so that's on back order. The pool pumps are on back order. So we're just constantly waiting on back ordered items. And so most of that's coming in this week or next week. And so we hope to see some big progress happening on the pool finishing up, and the pavers going down, and then the VIP cabanas and things. At this point, we think we'll get the pool open before this, but we're going to shoot for a grand opening of the WETspot for Halloween weekend. So Halloween weekend, they closed 22 blocks of Central last year. They're going to do it again this year. So, and we had a huge concert out in front of the space that, went over great. There were about 80,000 people in the street that day. And inside the businesses down in the Grand Central, we're going to do the same thing again this year. We're moving the concert since the WETspot will be opening, that'll be the grand opening that weekend. We're hoping to have some big name talent on both Saturday night and Sunday back there for people to enjoy.
And for people who are looking at the pictures throughout this video, the WETspot is an outdoor space. So you'll see it's got a long bar on one side with the aforementioned penis handles on the draft beer, but and also a pool and nice outdoor space. But it's all very conveniently connected through a small hallway. You can go right inside. You can stroll over to Cocktail if you want to be in a bigger indoor enclosed space and have some funky disco balls to look at. But on the path between the patio for WETspot and the patio for Cocktail, or the inside of Cocktail, is a little gift shop, which every hotel should have a gift shop. But since David has somewhat of a little bit of a twisted mind and a different perspective on things, this gift shop is called The Back Room, and it is in the back of the space, so it's kind of a play on words there. It's called The Back Room by ZaZoo'd, but really doesn't have all that much in common with the ZaZoo'd inventory. It focuses mostly on stuff that you would expect to find at like a beachfront resort shop, swimwear, underwear, socks, tank tops, t-shirts, ball caps, stuff like that. And of course, some other accoutrements you might need for your evening pleasures up in your room.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about Back Room. What does it say across the top of the door? I can't remember. There's a sign across the door inside that has some kind of a witty phrase on it.
Well, there's a clock in the back, maybe what you're referring to, but you probably, well, I guess you can say it on here. I don't know. It says it's time to fuck, I think is what you're.
Oh, maybe it is.
To. It's a giant clock on the back wall that says that. And so I think that's probably what you're referring to. But we've tried to, again, take, as you said, my sick sense of humor or witty sense of humor and put it in there as well. And so again, stuff that's in there. There are some crossover things from both the store ZaZoo'd down on Central and 6th and up there. And so, but not a ton. And so we're trying to, that space was originally part of the hotel lobby. It actually, back in the early days, the original hotel, it was outdoor space. that was like more of a patio space to the gardens. And so we had this extra space. We originally were going to use it for something unique, benefiting the hotel. We had originally visioned, we found the original elevator on the second floor of the hotel. We had it lowered to the first floor, and we were originally going to make that the front desk of the hotel. We were pretty excited about it. The elevator's in really good shape. And so we were going to do a little bit of remodeling to it and make it the front desk of the hotel. Unfortunately, the way we're having to engineer some doors and things around there from a fire safety perspective, it wasn't panning out. And then as we got busier and busier at Cocktail, we realized this isn't the best space for somebody to check into a hotel. So there's a central area upstairs that we're going to use as both the kind of breakfast area for the continental breakfast, as well as the hotel check-in. So the bellman will actually bring guests in through the front door of the hotel, which will eventually have an awning over it, and a space to pull up and unload. And then they'll take you up to the second floor where the actual lobby will be. But this store is down kind of on first floor, and it's going to have eventually things like suntan lotion, sunscreens in there, things that hotel guests will need. And right now it has swimsuits, like you said, underwear and those type of things. There isn't a store in St. Pete really geared with that kind of merchandise for the gay community. And so we thought it was, hey, let's use the space for that. It's, people coming in from out of town want to go to the beach. We're so close. That's why I love this city. It's, 15 minutes from a beach, but I get the big city so that, my ADHD can be stimulated with the city environment, and then I can relax. Actually, in the one place that I do is out on the beach. And so we wanted people to be able to enjoy both. And we figured, obviously, if they're coming to town, they're going to enjoy both. And so we thought the store was a good fit. We connected it back to ZaZoo'd. As we do all of our businesses, we want people to be able to explore and enjoy them each in their own. So we thought it was a nice way to connect the businesses by simply say by ZaZoo'd and kind of have the same humor and same take on merchandising and products that we do in there, just with a different twist.
Well, right. And I think too, as is true with pretty much any connected businesses, it adds a little bit of legitimacy to the business. It's not just some random person opened up a backroom store. It's associated with a store that's been in existence for almost 10 years and is well respected in the community, and has a good reputation for being a legitimate retailer. And that always helps too. I've been in that store. I've purchased things from that store. I agree with you. One of my friends from many years ago, Robert, owned a store that was called Bourbon Street Boxers that later opened. I think they had a store in Orlando too at one time, didn't they?
I think so, yeah.
And then he had a boutique down at was it at Suncoast or Flamingo?
I think
there was
Flamingo.
a little gay store that sold underwear and all kinds of stuff like that. And that is something that is missing. I mean, you can't really walk into to local Macy's and find a really cool collection of sexy Andrew Christian briefs or whatever. So it is very nice to have, not only to have it, but to have it in an environment where you can feel comfortable, showing it to your boyfriend or your best friend or whatever, and saying, what do you think of these? Would these look good on me? And you're not intimidated by the fact that the clerk is a 78-year-old blue-haired lady with a gigantic cross around her neck, just kind of judging you. So it is a very cool store. And I was pleasantly surprised to see what was in there. And of course, during Pride, it was packed. There were people in there. I think they were practically throwing money at you. I can't even imagine how many Brinks armored cars you needed to go home that night, because
it's simply being dumped into the ground outside going into the hotel upstairs.
Well, isn't that what a swimming pool is like? It's kind of like a boat. It's a big hole in the water that you just keep pouring money into.
Yeah, this space is not cheap to renovate. Trust me, an old building costs you a lot of money to renovate. So it's simply going from one business to the next, and funding those ventures. So
But
hopefully,
fortunately, as you alluded to earlier, when you go back to my early days going to gay bars and probably your first experiences in gay bars, things were different. The bars were dark, they were dingy, they often were in less than nice parts of town. They had rear entrances. You were almost embarrassed to walk in there. You
yeah.
weren't really proud of the spaces. And you're taking something that was old and kind of decrepit and rundown and polishing it up and fixing it up and putting a new paint job on it and making it into something that not only embraces the LGBT community and everybody else in the area, but you're making it something that is we can be proud of. And you walk in there and you feel good about yourself. You don't feel
Hopefully.
like you're a second class citizen having to walk into some dingy rundown dive to have a drink because you're not good enough to go to a nice bar. Everything you've done there is high quality, stylish, tasteful. It's a very nice presentation.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, that's what we're shooting for. We wanted to, break all the paradigms. So putting even a pool that people could go to that didn't stay there in the center of a city, is pretty unusual, especially a LGBTQ focused one. So we're trying to break all those paradigms. Even if you look at the last resorts that have been here, it's unusual that we sit downtown on the main thoroughfare that goes through the city. And so again, we're trying to make it different and unique and something that people will want to come out for and have a good time and spend time and create memories with friends and family so that we have all those spaces kind of checked off. Did I think I would retire and have 5 businesses, 6 businesses? Absolutely not.
Yet here
I
you
I
are.
miss the days of laying on the beach on the weekends and going out on my boat and things of that sort. But I also am very proud of the spaces that we are bringing people together to enjoy, from a community perspective. And I work 7 days a week. Oftentimes I'm there till 2 in the morning. I'm a very dedicated business owner, and helping my staff. I've got a great staff of people. It's not that I have to be there. Oftentimes it's that I'm there to help them be successful, but I'm also there to protect the brand. So I'm very much about the brand and how it's perceived and how we craft that brand and mold it into what it will stay, hopefully, over a test of time. And so I believe it's important that a business owner be there. People are a little shocked that I'm there daily, and if they see me there at 2:30 in the morning, which happens often on the weekends, they'll say to me, "Go home." Like, and I only stay when I feel like I need to stay, or when I feel like my management team and employee team needs me to stay, I'll stay. And the volume that we're doing there, sometimes it's just overwhelming. And so an extra set of hands. I bartended 2 weeks ago. It brought back some skills that I hadn't used in a while outside of making drinks for friends at home or on the boat. But you do what you have to do to get through, and sometimes volume just it's crazy. People, you build it, they'll come, if you put money into it. My dad taught me early on, you have to spend money to make money. And any business owner that is not putting money back into their business after they originally create the brand will never succeed. It will not stay long term. I think that's a big mistake that people make in the business world, is they don't think they need to continue to reinvest. And so I'm shocked at how much stuff breaks in a night, in a bar. And I'm shocked at how much stuff breaks, obviously, out at a pool area, and it's going to break in a hotel that we are constantly replacing. But I mean, going back to cocktail, we've re-engineered cocktail 5 times probably since we opened, from a seating perspective, from where our DJ booth is, where entertainment takes place. And we're continuing to reinvent the space based on the needs and what it's used for. And that's important. And I think people respect the fact that we're doing that we continue to put money in. People told us the chairs were uncomfortable when we were originally open. That was a huge investment. We replaced every chair in there. That wasn't cheap, but we felt as though we had heard enough feedback about it, and it was important to replace them and have them be more comfortable. So we continue to do the same kind of stuff. We listen to what people say, we watch how people use the space, and then we adapt the space for that. And so I think that's a big part of why all the businesses have been successful, and hopefully why they'll continue to be successful, is because we're committed to continuing to keep them spaces that you are proud of and you want to be in.
We certainly appreciate everything you're doing, not only for the gay community, but also for the downtown, St. Pete area there on Central Avenue. It's definitely an improvement, and definitely making the area much nicer and more desirable.
Yeah, it's amazing how much in the 2 years since we opened the Saint, how different the area feels and looks, and we're getting great new businesses come in that wouldn't have been attracted to that part of town before, and so it's just stretching Central closer to the beach from a business perspective to keep people shopping and doing things down there. It's important to the growth of the city and to maintaining the city where it is even today. For those that don't want to see the city grow, it's important that the city stay vibrant and stay well maintained for people to continue to want to come back here.
And for people who are not familiar with that area, my aunt and uncle bought a house down in South Pasadena about 40 years ago. So I have an experience with downtown St. Pete that goes back 4 decades. And at that time, you did not dare walk down Central Avenue after 6 p.m. at all.
Yeah.
It was not an area that you wanted to be in. It was a danger zone. It was very run down and not a pretty place to be at all. And to watch it evolve and get nicer and nicer, and more proper businesses come in and cleaned up, and the Chihuly Museum down the street, and the Holocaust Museum, and the Museum of Natural History, and all this stuff in that general area. It's amazing, and we are so glad that you have become a part of this. So now that you've completely retired and do absolutely nothing except run 6 businesses, what's next on the plate?
Oh God, hopefully some rest. I don't know. I have to feel really passionate about a project for it to happen, and so somehow this is just kind of worked out. The thing that I originally agreed on was 1 bar in this building, and then I said, okay, we'll do both bars in the building, and so it keeps growing, and it's going to be a bit before something else happens for sure, because these 2 bigger last projects, they take a year to really craft and get right, and babysit in its first year, their infancy. Any new business in its beginning phases is critical to keeping nurturing it, and keep changing it to where you look at how people use it, and you change whatever it was intended to do, and you say, okay, here's how they're really using it. Let's make it even more useful. So it's going to be a little bit. I don't foresee. It's not out of the picture, but I don't foresee another business yet, at least in the next year. But hey, you never know what happens.
This is true. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to tell us about all these great businesses that you've developed in St. Pete. And thank you for everything you're doing in the Grand Central District.
Very kind of you. Thank you.
That concludes another episode of the GayBarchives Show. For more information about this episode, or to find more episodes, visit GayBarchives.com.